Okay. Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Welcome back, guys, to another WTT video, or we can take talk. Okay. So today I'm going to introduce myself as the host of this video today. My name is Muaz Ibn Safar. I'm from 20KJ, and here we have one speaker. Okay, you can introduce yourself.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. My name is Fatan Karim. You can call me Fatan, and I'm from class 10 KG as well.
Okay. But then now you can explain your material today. Let me start now.
Okay. So thank you Muaz for giving me time to explain the materials. So in this material, in this material right now, I will explain material that is how to access RouterOS. But before we go to the material, I will explain first what is RouterOS and what is a MikroTik, because the RouterOS is a part operating system come from MikroTik. Okay, so now we get started to explain the MikroTik for the short explanation. Okay, so in this MikroTik is founded in the 1996 with founder John Trulli and Andris this, and he was located in Riga, Latvia, in North Europe. And what MikroTik brand is it? So MikroTik is a brand that producing a software and hardware router that usually used for the networking purpose. And this MikroTik, he want to make a technology on the internet, which is he want to make it cheap, faster, and it can be used for others. And the motto of MikroTik, or slogan of MikroTik, that is routing the world. It means a MikroTik, he want to make like a products, or he want to make the networking products to routing the world. Okay. So in MikroTik, there's a name of MikroTik RouterOS, which is that is the operating system used for MikroTik router board. It can be installed on the hardware in the router that MikroTik release, or we can use the RouterOS as a virtual machine, or it can be installed physically on the PC or server. And MikroTik is it was the unique basis, and it was the standalone operating system based on the Linux kernel. And also, the RouterOS is applying on the router board hardware, which is the router board is functionally for networking. There's a low end and a high end router. So this is for the example, the router board products that MikroTik release. There's like a cloud core router, there's a router board like a hub or hex products, and many more. So this is was an example. So even though that, RouterOS has the features to use in the networking purposes. So it was the first like a support the wireless standards, and the second can be used for the routing like RIP, OSPF, BGP, and many more. The third is a firewall that used to protecting the router and make like a filter for clients. The fourth is a QoS, or features to limiting bandwidth to the client. And the fifth is the point-to-point tunneling, like PPTP, PPPoE, and many more. And the sixth is the user management, like DHCP, proxy, hotspot, and others. And the last is the tools, which is can be used for the bandwidth test, touch, it can be used for ping, and many more. So that's about the RouterOS feature. Okay, and also there's a brutal word name, and because you know why, MikroTik it's have the routable product, which is it don't have not only have one, which is you have the many more many routers like quad-core router, like quad router switch, smart switch, and many more. And every router they have models like it had the three symbol name. The first like this RB is the router board. This 7 is the a series of the router, and this number 5, which is the port of the Ethernet, and the number 1, which is the interface wireless that applied on the router. Okay, so this is for example, the name, the model that used for the micro product like this, like the niche, a hub or hex or something. Okay, so every router board, they have the architecture that used for operating system in RouterOS. There's in router board, there's like the OS, which is every OS, it has the different architecture. For example, I have a hex router, which is, it runs on the MixP. And when we have like a CCR series, it will run as a architecture in the tile and many more. Okay, so we're gonna skip. Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna jump to the how to access RouterOS. Because if you know that RouterOS has the more ways to access. Like you can access as the CLI or you can access as the user interface in the application. Okay, so that is the how to access RouterOS. Before you access the RouterOS, that usually you need like a keyboard to typing, like you want to typing some IPs number like that. And RouterOS, it can be support the serial console, which is if you have the router which is have the console ports, it can be used to. And the Winbox that it runs on the layer 2. And if you want to more easier to configure router, you can use Winbox. Okay, we're gonna skip. Okay, so now we're gonna how to access to the OS. So to make sure we have the Ethernet cable or LAN cable to connect the router into your laptop. So firstly, I want to pick my router. For example, this is my router here. And the first time you can see in the left here is the power that is plugged power from the power supply. And in this slot, this is was the Ethernet slot or LAN slot here. And this is one, there's 5 Ethernet. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this time, we want to connect laptop with the Ethernet 2. And we used to connect with the LAN cable into the laptop. Okay, now we're gonna power up the router. Okay, so we're gonna jump it. The first ways to access RouterOS, we're gonna use a Winbox. So this is what's the most easiest for the beginners to access RouterOS, which because why? In the Winbox, this is have the more user interface that can be easier to navigate the menus. It can be easier to multitasking the windows. Okay, so because the Winbox has application, at this time, you need to download application if you don't have. So you can download an application in the official browser in MikroTik. So, for example, we're gonna download the MikroTik software. Go to the mikrotik.com/download. And this site, you can to download the RouterOS, and also you can download the Winbox in here. And if you want to download Winbox, you can go to these buttons, and you can download 32-bit or 64-bit edition here. And if you want to upgrade the RouterOS for your router, you can to scroll down here, and you can install the package from here. For example, this is was RouterOS version 7, and there's a RouterOS version 6. And if you want to use the RouterOS as the virtual, that usually people using cloud-hosted router. Okay, so because I have the Winbox application, so I don't need to download again. Okay, now we're gonna plug it, the cable first. Okay, so the firstly, before we access, so we make sure we have to know how to log in or connect to our router in here. Okay, so let's try. We're gonna run first. Okay. So now I will open Winbox. And so this time, this is what's the first screen when you open Winbox, which is this is what's the login or connecting to your router. So how to connect? So you need if you want to connect to your router, you need to fill the MAC address or IP address. And if you don't want to typing, for example, we want typing the IP, or you want to click the made IP in here, you can click discovery like this, and the MAC address will be automatically filled like this. And now, the default login and password, the login is a user is admin, and the password is a blank, which is for the new router. Okay, so now we're gonna have to connect by pressing this connect button. Okay, now you can see here, was the screen when we log in into the RouterOS by via Winbox. Okay, now we're gonna try to introduce the interface of the Winbox in here. And we're gonna start from with the name in the up here. The first time, this is admin name that it gives the names the user that we log in. And the second, this was the MAC address or IP address numbers that we use for logging into the router. And the thirdly is the identify name in our router. So example, in my router, my identify name is Fatan. And we go to the next get report. This is what the versions of the RouterOS that we use it on the router that I use. And then lastly, in this name, which is like hex slide, this is what the router that I use for connecting into the router. And that is used for the BSB architecture in here. And we're gonna go to next one. This was the undo and redo menu, which is if you miss the configuration, you can to press the undo button in here. And actually, in the left right there, which is was the menu to navigate the configuration. And lastly, was the workspace, which is to place the window interface in here. Okay, now the next step, we're gonna try to change the identify name in our router. So this is why you need to change the identify name in our router, because if you use the default name on your router, it will be can be easily found, it can be hardly found your router. So if you using your router with the default name, so we're gonna try to change the identify name. So how to change the identify name in your router? And now, so we're gonna start. You can go to the system in left right there in the menu, and we can go to the identity name. So this is way to change your identify name in your router. For example, I want to change the identify name to like this, Fatan, TNTKJ, for example. And to apply the name, you can press apply. So as you can see, the identify name has been changed. Like this, like this. The identify name has been changed. And also, the identify name can be shown when you usually to login router or want to log in RouterOS, for example. When we open the the Winbox window, you can see in here the identify name in our routers in here. Okay, for the next, we're gonna try to add the IP address in our router, because usually if you have the new routers or we have or we reset the router, the old configuration is like a 0, and there's like no configuration anymore. And before we connect to the other service, usually it needs an IP address. So we're gonna try to add an IP address. So we can go to here in IP menus, click and go to the addresses. As you can see, was the way to add the IP address in your interfaces. To add IP address, you can click this plus button in here, and we fill the addresses. For example, when to give the IP 192.168.90.1, and we add prefix 24. And we apply this address to the interface to for example, Ethernet 5. And we click apply to make the new configuration on the IP address in here. Okay, so that's about the IP address. And if you want to delete this one, you can to select the table in here. You can to disable or you can to delete here. And if you want to restore the configuration that you have been changed, you can to press undo in here. So this is will be back. Okay, so that's how about to access RouterOS in the Winbox. Okay, so the second, we're going to try to access RouterOS via webfig. So the webfig is made with it supports from the RouterOS version 5, and the function is almost same like Winbox, and the difference is like you configure it in the browser, not in the application. So this is what's the alternative if you don't have Winbox in here. Okay, so to open the webfig, now we're gonna try to open the new tab on your browser and type the IP that we connect the Ethernet. For example, this is IP that I use. And now we can to log in to your login username and the password. And you can see here, this is what's the interface in the webfig, which is it is usually used for alternative in the Winbox if you don't have application. So as you can see, this is what's the first screen. This is, for example, this is quick set for the faster configuration. And we want to extend configuration, we can go to the webfig tab in here. So this is the interface when we in the webfig. But the difference is, if you're using a webfig, it cannot be open the multi-window because that webfig, it can be open only one window like this. For example, if you want to open IP address, and the interface screen will be closed like this. And the function is same. So we can skip this. And you can also the terminal from your browser, which is like as called name, HTML console, like that. Okay, so we're gonna skip. And now to the next to the command line interface. So this is the ways to access router via text or CLI. It can be used from SSH, Telnet, console, or new terminal in the menu in the Winbox, or you can use the terminal on the webfig. So this is usually to running the script when we're accessing a router with the limited bandwidth. So if you want to use the CLI, we can use like a program which is you can use like a PuTTY with a CP and many more. Okay, so I want to give you example how to access via CLI or command line interface. Okay, we're gonna close the Winbox. Okay, so now I want to access our router via CLI. You can use the program like, for example, I use PuTTY. And this screen, we're gonna try to connect to our router. So now we're gonna try to use via SSH, and we enter the IP router that we connected. For example, like this, and click open. And when we are firstly connected to the CLI, we need to accept this like keys or fingerprint keys like this. And we're gonna click accept. And we're gonna try to log in as the admin or for admin user, and we type the password. And when we type the password for the securely, when we type it, the password will not show to this CLI screen. Okay, now we successfully connected to the router via CLI. Okay, so now we're gonna try. I will explain the base command that I use in CLI. So we're gonna try to. I will explain the basic command that used for in the router. Okay. Okay. So the first one, if you want to see your research in your router, you can to type like a system research like this. Research. And if you want to see your research, you can to call the command print. As you can see, this is, for example, to see your research of the router like this. And usually, if you want to see your like information or something, we call the command like ping like this. Okay, so now we're gonna try to, for example, command change the identify from CLI. You can to feel like this system identity set name equals, and we can to set the name that we want to change the router. For example, we're gonna try to change like this tkg. Oh, cannot. Okay, like this, for example, and we click enter. That you can see in here, the identity name has been changed. And we're gonna try to next example again for the CLI command. You can to use like IP address, IP address. And if you want to see the list of IP address, you can to call IP address print. That is a way to see your IP address. And if you want to if you want to remove the IP, you can to call like IP address remove, and choose the number that you want to delete the IP address. For example, I want to delete this address. You can to call it 0. But when I execute this command, the PT will be disconnected, so I don't want. Okay, so that's for the example for the CLI. Okay, so now we're gonna try to like example. If you don't have PuTTY, you can to use Windows terminal like this. So this is what's the next alternative if you don't have PuTTY in your application, or if you don't have application PuTTY on your computer, you can to use a Windows terminal or Windows PowerShell in your computer for using the Windows features in here. So if you are using terminal Windows, if you want to use if you want to use as the CLI, you can to call this command like SSH, and we fill the username at the IP address and click enter. This is when we first connected, we type yes, and after that we fill the password. Okay, so this is the next alternative if you don't have a PuTTY application. Okay, so that's about all. So when you don't have like Ethernet to connect the router, you can to use the, if your router have the console ports, you can to use if you using port. Okay, so wait. So the serial console is used for if you like have interfaces, and if you forgot that interfaces is all disabled, you can to use the serial console that has been applied in the MikroTik router. And also many features of serial console that using for net install to install the router or RouterOS. Okay, so that's about all. The explanation how to access the OS, and that's all for me. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fatan, for your explanation about the RouterOS. Okay, so maybe that's all for today's weekend tech talk video. Okay, so I'm going to close for the last word. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.